This is Lynn of Havilah, Psalm 54, verse 1. For the chief musician, on stringed instruments, a contemplation by David, when the Ziphites came and said to Saul, "Isn't David hiding himself among us?" Comment in verse 1, David wrote this in contemplation of an event as told in 1 Samuel chapter 23. In the days before David was king, when he and his men were on the run from Saul, they were living in wilderness hideaways, trying to stay hidden from Saul's army. At one point, they went to the wilderness near the town of Ziph, about 25 miles south of Jerusalem. Before long, the Ziphites told Saul of their whereabouts, and Saul's army came and almost caught them. David never blamed Saul or spoke anything negative against him because Saul was the Lord's anointed, 1 Samuel 24:10. But in the psalm, he did blame the Ziphites for turning him in. David's prayer during that time was, still in verse 1, "Save me, God, by your name. Vindicate me in your might. Hear my prayer, God. Listen to the words of my mouth. For strangers have risen up against me. Violent men have sought after my soul. They haven't set God before them." Selah. Comment, the Ziphites no doubt thought they were doing the right thing, keeping King Saul informed. Surely they figured it was a matter of loyalty to God and country. But if they had any spiritual insight, if they had set God before them as they should have in verse 3, they would have known God rejected Saul, 1 Samuel 16:1, and David was the rightful king, 1 Samuel 16:13. They were deaf to God and therefore wicked in their politics. In 1 Chronicles 12:32, the men of Issachar understood the times and knew that David should be king. The Ziphites should have had the same understanding if they had any spiritual insight. But since they didn't, their politics were 180 degrees backwards, and they were completely wrong on what they ought to do. But they were no less sure of themselves, which is another mark of spiritual blindness and wickedness. The godless have no idea the destruction they cause. They think their godlessness is godliness and their wickedness goodness. As David is running for his life and trying to protect his little faithful army, he says, verse 4, "Behold, God is my helper. The Lord is the one who sustains my soul. He'll repay the evil to my enemies. Destroy them in your truth." Comment now, as usual, David will end on a positive note that Yahweh will answer him and come through for him. He'll give God credit for hearing him and taking care of it. Verse 6, "With a free will offering I will sacrifice to you. I'll give thanks to your name, Yahweh, for it is good. For he's delivered me out of all trouble. My eye has seen triumph over my enemies." Comment, Psalm 55 is next.